Welcome to a new episode of Candid Conversations here on CreatingWithin.com, and I am your host, Stephanie Fleitas. Today we have the pleasure of speaking with Alex from TravelFashionGirl.com. Alex, welcome. Thank you for having Candid Conversation with Creating Within.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I wanted to let you know, first and foremost, that I have really enjoyed your website. I think it's awesome, and it has great information. You've done a really fantastic job with it.
Thank you very much.
Alex, I wanted to know about just your experience on leaving the corporate world and really following your desire to travel and explore the world.
So when I left my job of 6 years, I had made a promise to myself that if I ever left that company, I'd always take 3 months off to travel. And in that time, one of the places that I went to was India. And I was actually ready to start a new job the following month. I had everything sort of lined up. So this is the end of my 3-month journey, my little break that I had given myself. And when I was in India, I had an epiphany, and I just realized that I didn't want to go back to my old life. I wanted to travel, and if I didn't, I just realized that at that moment, if I didn't do it now, I was never going to do it. And this was my opportunity. Wow. Yeah, I had been traveling for 3 months, but there was so much of the world to see. On that one particular trip, I met so many inspiring women that had been to, all the world wonders. They'd been to Peru, and they scaled Machu Picchu. They'd climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. They'd been all over the world, and I wanted to do the things that those women had done. They were so inspiring. And I'll never forget the moment where this hit me. Everything just sort of aligned perfectly in my mind. It all made sense. And I decided I'm gonna leave my, I'm gonna cancel the lease to my apartment. I'm gonna sell my car. I'm going to put everything in storage, and I'm going to travel. At that point, I hadn't sold all my belongings just yet. So that I think it's been, even though I've been traveling for 6 years, it's been a bit of a process.
Oh, wow. That is intense.
So yeah, I did it, and as it turned out, that night, when I made sort of a plan of where I wanted to go, that night I emailed my manager before I even left India that I was leaving my apartment. I was going to be leaving in a month, and surely enough, a month later, I jumped on a plane and I went to Africa, and I kept traveling.
Wow. So when you went on your 3-month travel, that was just something because you still had your job, so you just decided you wanted to travel for 3 months, and then you had the plan to come back. And as you were traveling, you realized that there was so much more to see, and you wanted to continue to see more of this. How was it when you made that decision for your friends and family? What did they think when you just decided to basically leave everything behind to go pursue this desire?
It was a mixed reaction, and the biggest concern for people, and I say concern because everybody was worried that there was something wrong with me. and the thing is, it wasn't necessarily because I wanted to travel. It was because I've always been focused on my career. My career has always been my priority above everybody else. I was that person. And my job was my life. So leaving my job in itself, when I did leave in January of 2008, that was shocking. And even now, for me, thinking about it, it was a very hard time. For me, it was like a divorce.
Wow.
So what happened afterward was so shocking within myself, and for the rest of my friends and family, they thought something had gone completely wrong with me because I've gone from this career-hungry, very focused person to I'm going to just get rid of everything I've been working so hard to build for the past, 6-7 years, and I'm just going to take off. So that was shocking for them.
I'm kind of in a similar situation now that I've decided to embark on this journey myself. Much of the career part, but people do have mixed feelings. Some people think I'm nuts, and then concern for your safety and all that. But I think that it's so important, which is one of the main reasons, honestly, that I wanted to have a candid conversation with you, because I think that so many people out there have different desires, and it might not necessarily be what you've done and what I'm about to do, which is, leave everything behind to explore the world. But everybody has desires, and I think people are afraid to follow them because of whatever reasons, the fears that come with, just following the things that you want to do. There's so much uncertainty in that. And I love the fact that you had this desire and you just went for it. And that's courageous, and it's admirable, and it's inspiring.
Well, that's exactly it. It was when I was in India, it was at that moment that I realized I had nothing to fear. At that point, I was 25. Wow. And I thought to myself, well, I don't have kids. I don't have a job anymore. I hadn't started my new job. I didn't have a mortgage payment. So those were three major factors that I had in my benefit. So that was okay. I could leave. But then what's the worst that could happen at that point, or even later on in life? Now when I talk to people that I've met along the way, even if you leave for 1 month, a year, what's the worst that can happen? You can always just start over. And it's only a year of your life, where it's only X amount that you can, worst case, you've lost it. Maybe you hate this experience, but it's never really going to be a loss, because you're always going to grow from it. And you're never going to look back and say, oh, I wish I would have done something. You know what I mean?
I agree. I think that that's the worst thing that we can do to ourselves is to suffer with regret.
Exactly.
Because I think the pain of the unknown, or the fear of it, might suck, because I think everything that's new and it's uncharted territories can be scary at the beginning. But that was kind of my turning point too. It was like I sat down one day, because I've been wanting to do this 2 years ago. And I won't lie to you, Alex, 2 years ago, I was ready. I sold everything, and I started going from room to room, and I was like, okay, I'm going to save money. And then I started doing that, and I started saving money. And then I just, fear started. And I'm not usually a fearful person, but for the first time I experienced it, and I just let it get a hold of me. And I was like, oh my God, what if I don't, I'm going to leave my job, and then I'm going to sell my car, and I have to start all over again, and what if I don't have enough money, what if I run out, just all these stupid fears that come into play, and I, talked myself out of it, and then this year, I just, exactly what you said, I was sitting at my desk, and I was like, you know what, I don't want to wake up one day and regret that I didn't do something that I felt I needed to do.
Right.
And, so yeah, and I think that that's a very important lesson for people is you don't want to have regrets at the end of your life, because we only have one that we remember at least.
Oh, exactly. That's it, and you can't even at this point look back and regret not leaving 2 years ago, because it's, one thing I have learned in travel is very powerful in this way, is that everything, it sounds cheesy, but everything does happen for a reason. Things happen when they're supposed to. And the second that I made that decision, everything just started falling into place. Any fear that I had, it just was completely, it was diminished by something occurring that was comforting, or a fear that I had, a solution presented itself.
Can you give me an example of something that you feared and experienced, and how you were able to soothe yourself, or how the universe soothed it for you?
Well, it's funny, because when you're traveling, I guess because you're so open to new experiences, and you have this sort of this new mindset, and you're going out to take on the world, and because we're out of our element, we have no other choice but to trust. And the first destination that I got to after that, in May of 2008, was South Africa. I was starting my trip there, and I got there and I was like, what am I doing? I don't know anybody. I just got here. I'm going to be by myself. I started freaking out a little bit once I was actually there and thought, it was just things. What did I just do? And I'm by myself here.
Right.
But that fear was so short-lived because instantly I met two girls and they kind of were just like, well, what are you doing? I was by myself, but they wanted to know what I was doing and they wanted to hang out with me, which was awesome because I was thinking, oh my God, that's great because you have each other and I have nobody. But, as it turns out, you guys want to hang out with me, so this is awesome. It's something as simple as that, just I'm walking by myself, what's going to happen? These two girls appear and all of a sudden we're hanging out the rest of the time, It's all these very little simple occurrences. It's not like, the seas parting ways or anything, but it's just very little things that make it okay. Once you're out there, I feel like when you're at home, like when I'm at home, things just don't start happening. And right now, I guess I'm on the spot. I can't think of other little things, but
no, it's okay.
The whole journey is just one fun or random coincidence that leads you here into another. When you're open, which travel brings out of you.
What do you feel that you've learned the most, or what's the biggest life changer that you feel has changed within yourself and your life from 6 years ago to now?
6 years ago, like I said, the person that I was, my priorities, I was going and throwing down $1,000 in an afternoon or buying a few pairs of shoes because that was what was important to me. I had a little convertible sports car because I wanted to have a nice ride, drive around LA, and it's just your priorities change. And now I'm like, $1,000. Do you know how long I could live in another country for $1,000? I'm not going to spend that much money. Or everything. It serves you see things so differently. Either something becomes so trivial, like, why did I care about that before? And then, now if I was going to settle down somewhere, I'd probably want to have, I'd probably just get, a used car that I could just pay off cash and then be able to save my money to keep traveling. It's just, and then instead of spending $50 on a meal, maybe I'd want to spend $10 because that other $40 could be spent on an experience. It's really weird. It's just, priorities completely shifted. It's a totally different change of lifestyle.
That's beautiful. And what about as far as the encountering, because I feel that's one of the main reasons why I feel that my soul is asking this of me, because I think that when you travel, there's so much growth in all aspects. And obviously from what you're saying, your priorities, the way that you see things are completely different. And I'm sure you've met so many people along your travels. How has that helped you to continue to expand your perspectives? What was something interesting that you encountered in maybe other cultures or just interacting with different people that you just find interesting, that helped you shape your perspective in a new way?
I've just seen the world in so many new levels. Anything from the countries, the cultures of the countries I visit, to the travelers and their backgrounds that I meet along the way. Just the amount of knowledge that I've gained about the world. And, people always also make fun of Americans. I think, we don't know this when we're in our own country, but when we leave, everybody tells you, because Americans this and Americans that. But I do feel like over here, I was sheltered to a lot of to what's going on in the rest of the world. And it's just exposed me to world events or, concerns, women's concerns in other countries, local people's concerns in other countries. It's been it's just an education.
Yes.
From a physical point, a spiritual point, an emotional, and from every different level. It's educational experience that far surpasses what you could ever read in a textbook going to school.
Yeah, I agree. I think I think the world is so big, and sometimes when we stay in our comfort, I think we do ourselves a great injustice not exploring. There's so much to see in the world and so many people to meet, so many perspectives to integrate. So I find it really fascinating. And
it may sound silly as well, but even something silly sort of things you see on TV or music. Like I love indie rock music, and I love British music, British bands. So then actually meeting people from going to England, or meeting people from, I guess it would be the same for people coming to the US and looking at the pop culture. But for pop culture, going to other countries, and it's like, oh, okay, that explains what this lyric in a song means. Anything from that to something way deeper. It's amazing because you're actually going out there and finding out for yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Versus it's firsthand experience. And yes. What do you think now? I mean, it's been a long time, so obviously your family thought at the beginning you were a little crazy for wanting to do this, and I think people usually it's hard for people to understand when people make radical or what they think are radical decisions. But after you came back the first time, what was their perception? Did it change?
Well, when I came back, my intentions were still, when I came back at that point in 2008, my intentions were still to continue with my career and to get a job. That was what my intentions were to continue doing. And then at the end of 2008, I had another epiphany, basically. And I was in Mexico with a friend at a different part of my travels of that year. It was the end of the year. I was done with my travels, or so I thought, and then I realized, you know what? I want to do a round the world trip. I want to go for a full year nonstop on a solo adventure, because the traveling that I had done in the beginning was very pieced out, and I was also participating in tours because in 2008 especially, right now things have changed a bit, but there was a lot less information on solo traveling. So when I got really frustrated when I had nobody to travel with, I decided to join a tour, a package tour. And I thought, well, at least this way I can travel and I won't be by myself. So most of the traveling I did in 2008 was on tours. And let me tell you, this was a great experience because it helped me get my feet wet, but it was also very expensive to do it this way. But at least, it did help me get out there. So my next challenge for myself, I was ready to actually do it on my own. Mm-hmm. And that was taking it to a whole other level. And at that point, that's when my friends and family were like, okay.
You're crazy.
Something's happened here, you know what I mean? They were more understanding. It's not like they never told me not to go.
Right.
They never discouraged me. My family was always supportive. They never discouraged me to do it. But it was, oh, wow, she's going to go. That's really, now they were looking at it also in a more courageous, they were seeing it more that I was braver, and they were starting to think about it as well. And some of my friends were thinking about joining me, but nobody actually did, which I'm happy about, because you need to have that solo trip. I think it's so important. So when I made that decision in December of 2008, I said, I'm going to, in 1 year, I'm going to stay for 1 year and I'm leaving. And exactly 1 year from my decision to do that, I left on my round the world trip. And essentially after that, now I've been nonstop.
Wow. And how did your website, TravelFashionGirl, come about, and when did you start that?
Well, in 2011, so a couple years down the line, I was trying to figure out a hobby and a way to keep busy when I was traveling, and also a way to make money, because I met, when I was traveling, I met someone, and he's from England, and I'm obviously from the States. So the American passport is the worst passport to work in any other country. Because obviously we have our own issues and we don't let people work there. But so we can't work consequently anywhere else. So I wanted to figure out a way where I can work independently so I didn't have to be away from my partner. And I started looking into blogging, and I didn't really see this sort of as a career, but it was just something I started looking at. It became a hobby. I started another blog called wanderlessandthegirl.com, and that sort of, doing the more traditional travel blog route. As I did that, that was my hobby, and that sort of helped me find the vehicle in which to work. Because at that point, I didn't see blogging as a way to sustain myself, but that was what I was trying to figure out. And I read another blog called theprofessionalhobo.com.
The professional what?
Theprofessionalhobo.com.
Oh, okay, professionalhobo.com.
And she spoke about how she had to find ways of making money while you're traveling, and that's what she writes about traveling financially sustainably full time. And one of the things she said was to think about how you can combine your talent or your background, your professional background, with travel. And for me, I was thinking, come on, I used to work in the fashion industry. What can I possibly do? It makes this does not work for me. It doesn't make sense. And somehow it ended up clicking. And like I said, I didn't start Travel Fashion Girl it became another hobby of mine. It became something that I was doing for myself. I, at the same time, decided, oh my gosh, this packing situation is out of control. If I'm traveling so much, I really need to cut back on my packing. It's ridiculous. So at the same time, I simultaneously embarked on this mission to travel light and pack light. So I started learning and studying and interviewing people and researching, and I created this whole system that I then wanted to share with other travelers. And that's how Travel Fashion Girl came about.
Wow.
So I didn't do it on purpose to blog and make money. I did it as a hobby, and it was, things I learned for myself and all my mistakes I wanted to share with others. Because it's really frustrating when you're out there and, I couldn't find any help. I was Googling online, trying to figure out how to pack for certain situations, and there was nothing for girls.
Yeah, no, I agree, because I was I was just doing a little bit of research. I haven't honestly planned too much for this trip, besides I just have my one-way ticket, and I don't even know where I'm going. But I was like, okay, I need to know a little bit of what I might need, and then I came across your site, and I was just like, oh my God, this is fantastic, because the way it's organized is just so easy to kind of navigate it, and then you have so much concise information that honestly I used your site to get everything that I need. I love how you have like the main things that you use, like the towel. Like there was little things like I wouldn't have thought about. Like you put that the cover for like the hostel, like the microfiber, like little cocoon. I don't know what you call it.
Yeah, the sleeping liner.
The liner, because you're like, okay, well, you go to hostels. I was like, shit, I wouldn't have thought about that. Or like, the little e-bags to make more space for your bag.
Man, I had no idea either. Like I started reading these when I was going to forums. I remember, back in 2009, going through forums trying to decipher what all these things meant. It was so confusing. What is a travel towel? I bought one that was too small because these things are tiny. And then, what's a sleeping bag liner? Why would I need a sleeping bag liner? That makes no sense to me. And I bought a cotton one because it was the cheapest one, and ended up with this massive bulge of heavy fabric, traveling around with this super heavy cotton sleeping liner. And then as I'm traveling around with this huge thing, it's my boyfriend now. He's like, "Why is that so big?" I was like, "Because his sleeping liner was a quarter of the size, and my monstrous things." It's just all down to the smallest detail.
Yeah. So everything that you learned, all your errors and your mistakes are now everybody's blessings.
And I make so many mistakes and so many errors. So, yeah, that's the purpose, is helping other people avoid all my mistakes.
See,
I've
and
made plenty, so there's plenty for people to learn from.
That's beautiful, because right there, that's I think that's an awesome lesson for everybody to capture, that it's, you know, some people have fear of making mistakes, you know, we want to be so perfect, but it's in the mistakes that you learn the most, and sometimes in those mistakes is where our little treasures lie, you know. From, look at how your travel fashion girl just kind of blossomed to something you weren't even looking for or even expecting, but it just happened.
Honestly, I mean, I'm not the planner. You know, I was like you know, oh, okay, yeah, sure, I'm going to go. I'm going to buy my ticket. I literally booked that life-changing trip to India. I literally booked the trip 1 week before I left.
Wow.
I didn't even realize that you needed to take malaria tablets, you needed a visa, nothing. I mean, this is at the very beginning, okay? This is in 2008. So I very cluelessly took off, not knowing anything. Well, I found out to get my visa like the day before. But the point is, you know, in the beginning, I was just like, yeah, it's cool. You know, this is great. I'm going to do this. And I just was so clueless. That's what the website actually probably should call it, like Travel Fashion Clueless, because there are so many things that I didn't realize. It's so simple, but, you know, but in all fairness, there wasn't as much information at that point as there is now, in my defense.
Yeah, now there's a lot more, but still.
There's no excuse.
No, that's cool though, because I think everybody has their own formula, and I think it's about you just were following your instinct. You know, this is what you wanted to do, and you just kind of went for it. And I think sometimes that's the best way to do it, because if you think too much, sometimes it'll give you a lot of time to find a lot of excuses as to why not to do it. And I think that we already live in a world that's so fear-based that it's so easy for us to talk ourselves out of the things that we want.
Exactly. And, you know, that's another thing, is that, yeah, I may have been relatively unprepared in the beginning, but it was okay. And that's another thing, is that people worry a lot. They want to be too ready, too prepared, but what about this, but what about that? And that's one of the things that I try to also tell people, you know, and this can be with regards to packing, you know, or this can apply to anything else. You know, it'll be fine. You can always figure it out. Once you're out there, some of the biggest adventures you go on are because you're unprepared. You're in search for Band-Aids. I don't know, you know, you ran out of shampoo at the most inopportune time. You're on like a hunt to find it. It's just the smallest thing. You're always going to get it. Your travelers are going to help you. It's not going to be the end of the world. And sometimes they're the biggest adventures as well, the misadventures.
Yeah, I can imagine. And what about, did you ever fear, when you did your 1 year, did you ever fear running out of money, or did you budget a certain amount, or how was that? Because I know that a lot of people's fear is that, like, okay, I can't travel because I don't have enough money, or what if I go with X amount and I run out?
Well, I actually booked a one-way. I didn't book a return ticket. I booked a around the world ticket without a return flight, because I wanted to just have an open end. You know, if I still had money, maybe I'd carry on at the end of this time, or if I found somewhere I really liked, maybe I would just stay there. I didn't know what was going to happen at the end of this period, so I didn't book a flight home. Mm-hmm. As it turns out, I ended up changing my flight 3 times because I met my now boyfriend during that trip.
Oh,
so
wow.
when we met each other, we kept on switching our flights around or pushing back dates. So I ended up coming home a few months later than I planned, with less money than I expected. But you know, I always figured, okay, so if I need to borrow money to come back home, I'll always get a job and pay it right back.
Right.
Which I think I may have borrowed money to fly home. I don't really remember anymore, but I remember I got a job and I paid back my mom in my first paycheck. It wasn't a big deal. You know, there's always a way to figure it out.
Yeah.
You run out of money, you come home. You don't have money for a little bit, but you can pick yourself back up. I think if that's one of the fears, you have to think to yourself, realistically speaking, if I run out of money, is there someone that will take me in for a few months while I get myself back? You know, and people are so supportive. That's one thing that I found in the process, and is your family, your friends, they're rooting for you. You know, I come back home now, and my friends, you know, if you need a place to stay, if you need me to take you anywhere, they're so supportive of the lifestyle. And granted, not everybody may have that luxury, but there's always a way. You find one of the biggest things I've learned is that people are really, you see people in a different light. They're helpful. They're good. We are so used to being at home and seeing maybe the guy honking his horn at us in traffic, or someone, or like in Miami, actually in Florida, or you're from, somebody gave me the bird.
Oh my God.
I was like, what? And you're just used to seeing people almost in such a negative light at home, you know, and the worst because everybody's in traffic or, you know, just frustrated and stressed. You meet people, you know, whether people are locals or travelers, and they're helpful and they're really kind. It's really kind of re-inspiring you to appreciate humanity more.
That's awesome.
It can be a bit frustrating when you're at home sometimes.
Yeah, that's a great point that you make, because one of the things I've read from, you know, bloggers who have traveled, it's one of the biggest lessons that most of them all have in common is that they've learned that, one, I think that the world is much safer than we think it is.
Yes.
And that people are a lot nicer than we think. And I always find that beautiful, because I always want to root for humanity. And I do believe that by nature, humans are not, we're love, you know what I mean? And when we do things, it's usually based out of fear or because people are emotionally inadequate just because they haven't been taught. But overall, I think people are good. And that's the thing that I've read the most. And so you're now reiterating that you've learned that as well.
It's amazing. The world isn't a scary place. And yeah, things can happen. But you know what? Things can happen anywhere. You know, my grandmother is always, you know, she feels better now. You know, she's used to my lifestyle, but she's always worried, you know, well, this can happen. I mean, we just had a huge earthquake in LA last week. You know, things can happen anywhere. I mean, I'm from a city that's not necessarily the safest place in the world, and I've had quite a few experiences here myself. So it can happen here. It can happen across the world. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. You can't control it. Control, that is, you know, what, for me, I was a control freak. And control, I'll never forget the moment I realized that I'm absolutely powerless when it comes to nature. Nature is something you cannot control, and you can sit there and you can be in fear and you can be concerned, but you know what? You're gonna just ruin the ride for yourself. I was in Malaysia, and we were on this horrible boat journey going to an island, and I swear I thought the boat was gonna crash. The waves were so huge. I was freaking out, and I was just thinking, oh my gosh, I'm gonna die. This is horrible. I sat there perched, crouched, my body tensed for half an hour, hating the entire moment. And I found that it was such a metaphor for life and for my life, because I could sit there crouched, hating every moment, so scared of what was happening, or I could have just relaxed and let go, because there was nothing I could have done at that point, and there's nothing you can do in general. So you might as well just go along for the ride and enjoy it, you know what I mean?
Beautiful. Yep. I couldn't have said it better myself. That was awesome. And so a couple more things. So you said, so what you were really saying earlier is that you went to travel to find your boyfriend.
I wasn't looking for him. It just kind of happened that way.
I'm just messing with you. But how did that happen? How was that experience? Since this is a candid conversation, we kind of touch a little bit in all areas.
Well, that was actually a whole other misadventure in itself. I was in Vietnam, and my visa was about to run up in 2 days. And I don't know if you've read in different blogs, but people have a really mixed experience in Vietnam. really positive, really negative. They love it, but they hate it. And for me, I loved it, but it was a very challenging country. So I was so tired of being there after a month that I couldn't wait 2 more days to get out of the country. I was just like, I need to leave now. I can't be here anymore. And I had met a guy traveling that I had seen traveling along the way, and he was traveling with a few people, and I was alone at that point because I was going to be leaving my group that I had met. And as a solo traveler, you're never really alone. You always meet people. If you're open to it, you're always meeting people. So at that point, I was going to be alone if I was leaving all the people. So I asked this guy, hey, is it okay if I join your group? Because I don't want to go on by myself, but I want to leave Vietnam now. And he was welcoming, inviting me to join his group. And in his group happened to be this English guy that I had seen traveling around Vietnam. And he ended up sitting next to me on the bus the next day to leave the country. And we've been sitting next to each other ever since.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. And so basically you guys have just been traveling together since then?
Yeah, so we, in that time we stayed together for 2 months since we were both on round-the-world trips going the opposite direction. And we stayed together for 2 months. We both changed our flights around so we could stay longer. And then we went our separate ways but stayed together. And then we spent the rest of the time going back and forth between either where he lives or where I live, and then continuing to travel together the rest of the time.
Beautiful. So you followed your desire, you left everything behind, the unconventional way, which most of us are afraid to do. And you ended up gaining tons of wisdom. You got you started your blog that turned into a business. And
all these things have happened, actually.
And you found a relationship and somebody who is living and supporting your same lifestyle. So I think you did pretty good.
Yeah, all right. When you put it that way, you don't really think about these things, but that's true. I went and followed a dream and ended up with a relationship, a new passion, a career, and all this new life experience behind it. So yeah, I'd say definitely success.
Yep, I agree, and I think that this is the biggest message. And there was a reason why I wanted to interview you and have a candid conversation, because I just felt that you had a lot of wisdom to share, and what Creating Within is all about, and what my goal and my passion in life is to inspire others to be their greatest version, and to just get people to really follow their desires, because I think that the only way that the world will change is one person at a time, when each of us take responsibility for our life and we stop blaming the outside and realize that we're the only ones in control of our happiness.
Yeah, that's all you can do is just follow your gut. I always follow my gut, and I follow what I feel inside. And my instincts always lead me the right way.
I love it.
So far, I'd have to say that, I guess, now that you've summed it all up, it sounds pretty like my instincts took me in a good direction.
Yeah, and that's really what it is, because I believe that innately all of us have all the answers. We have an internal compass. I mean, we're amazing creatures, and that's one of the reasons why I want to go travel, because I feel like it'll help me align more with my own intuition, because I have always been someone who's followed my gut. And I just feel like for me to get to the next level and really fine-tune that, I think that, this desire came up, and the only way for me to fine-tune that is to listen to it. And even if I don't know where it's taking me, or I don't know how things are going to develop while I'm out there, but it's taking the first step and trusting in that voice, and which is what you did. And it's led you here, and that's the message for everybody. It's, trust your instinct and trust that little voice despite fear.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So as we wrap this up, I wanted to see if you have do you have any last words that you want to share with our listeners about, whether it's, following your instinct, or even somebody who has a desire to start a business that's outside of the norm, out of the corporate world, and and has fears of, there's too much competition out there, or how do I start? Do you have any advice?
Well, hopefully someone is good in traveling. Actually, I'm going to combine those things, those two things you just said. You said, for if I have advice for someone that's traveling and someone who's thinking about starting a career, or wanting to do something different. One of the things that I try to tell people is, if you're going to go traveling for the first time, like right now, you're going to go do this, you're branching out, have a moment just for yourself. Leave the electronic, leave the business, leave everything else behind, and just enjoy that moment and take it for yourself. There's nothing more distracting for me than actually, unfortunately, my blog when I'm traveling, and checking it on Facebook and doing all that stuff. And if you do have a goal to find a business or find a way to make money when you're traveling, let that happen naturally. But give yourself the opportunity to make the most of this experience. And it's really difficult to combine the authenticity and the experiences that you can have while you're traveling if you're attached to a business somewhere else, or if you're attached to what's happening on the online world somewhere else. There's so many times when I found myself enjoying an experience through the internet, when instead of me thinking, oh my gosh, this waterfall is amazing, how can I write a blog about it? It's like, no, well, actually, this waterfall is amazing, and what does it mean to me as a person, for myself? So you should be number one, and the business should be number two, if it's possible for you to do that. That's my number one advice.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I think that we got amazing information and insight here. And for everyone listening, please check out Alex's site. It is TravelFashionGirl.com.